So, imagine this. You walk into what's supposed to be a celebration for your sister, and you realize you're not just on the sidelines. You're being erased. That's what happened to me, and honestly, I'm still figuring out how I feel about it. My name is Jeremy, and this is my story. Let me back up. When I was 18, my parents died in a car accident. My sister Amy was only 15. While my friends were getting ready for college, I was figuring out how to be a guardian to a kid who just lost everything. I put university on hold, got a job at a local hardware store during the day, waited tables on weekends, and did my best to keep us both afloat. But even with 2 jobs, it wasn't enough. Amy was brilliant, and she deserved to go to college. She had her hopes pinned on med school. So I made a choice that still keeps me up some nights. I sold our parents' house, the house where we grew up, where all our memories lived. Amy cried when I told her, but she understood. That money paid for her education, her books, her everything. I moved us into a tiny apartment and told myself it was temporary. Amy threw herself into her studies and graduated top of her class, eventually becoming the doctor she always wanted to be. I was so proud of her. Every sacrifice felt worth it when I saw her succeed. But over the past year, Amy started pulling away. At first, I chalked it up to her busy schedule. She's a doctor after all. But our weekly dinners became monthly, then barely at all. She'd cancel last minute with vague excuses about work emergencies or social obligations. Then one evening, she showed up with Mark, her boyfriend of 3 years, and announced they were engaged. I was genuinely happy for them. Mark had always been respectful, never made me feel like the awkward extra. But there was something in Amy's eyes that night. Excitement mixed with guilt. That's when Mark mentioned, almost offhand, that his parents were throwing them an engagement party. Before I could even react, Amy jumped in. "It's just going to be a super formal thing, nothing special. Honestly, Jeremy, you don't have to come if you don't want to. It'll probably be boring for you anyway." She laughed it off, but her voice was just a little too light, her smile a little too forced. I remember thinking it was weird. Amy and I had always celebrated big moments together. Why would she want me to skip this one? The rest of the evening, that odd feeling stuck with me, like there was something she didn't want me to see. A few weeks later, the engagement dinner rolled around at Mark's parents' house. I knew Mark came from money, but pulling up to their place made me realize just how much. Perhaps Amy was right. Maybe I shouldn't have come. I parked my old car next to their shiny BMW, took a deep breath, and tried not to feel completely out of place. I was ushered into the dining room together with the other guests, and I immediately froze. Standing there, chatting with Mark's parents like old friends, were my Uncle Ray and Aunt Sarah, people I hadn't seen since my parents' funeral. And Amy? She was referring to them as the people who raised her after the tragedy. I just stood there, trying to process it. My sister, the person I gave up everything for, pretending I barely existed. Everything was surreal. Mark's parents asked polite questions about my lowly job and future plans, while Uncle Ray and Aunt Sarah acted like I was a distant acquaintance. Amy kept this perfect smile on her face, but I could see her hands shaking. Mark looked uncomfortable the whole time, like he knew something wasn't right but didn't know how to fix it. I wanted to leave in that moment, but I knew if I did, they would win. Then I truly wouldn't exist. So I stayed just to watch it unravel. As the evening went on, I picked up pieces of conversations. Uncle Ray was telling Mark's father about Amy's difficult transition after losing her parents, how he and Sarah stepped in to provide stability. Mark's mother mentioning how wonderful it was that Amy overcame such challenging circumstances with proper guidance. Then I heard Amy talking to Mark's sister about having a brother who was still trying to find his way in life. Like I was some distant relative she occasionally worried about, not the person who gave up everything for her future. The pieces started clicking together. This past year, she wasn't just pulling away. It wasn't just about canceled dinners. Amy was building relationships with Uncle Ray and Aunt Sarah, the same people who refused to take us in 9 years ago. All those work obligations were golf sessions and lunches where she was rewriting our history, positioning herself as the grateful niece they rescued instead of the sister I raised. The betrayal cut too deep. I wouldn't stay silent. I stood up and raised my glass to make a toast. Amy tried to stop me. "Let's save the toast for the wedding," she said. But I knew I wouldn't be invited to the wedding. This was my only shot. "I want to toast Amy and Mark," I said. "Mark, I've known you for years, and I've always considered you family. I'm proud of everything you and Amy accomplished together." Then I turned to my uncle and aunt. "Uncle Ray, Aunt Sarah, it's been what, 9 years? The last time we saw each other was at Mom and Dad's funeral. I begged you to take us in. You said you couldn't handle the responsibility, so I did." Everyone gasped in shock. Mark's father was looking confused and staring at Uncle Ray, then at Amy. I turned to Amy, who was now staring at the table. "Amy, my dearest little sister, you've been my responsibility since you were 15. I sold our childhood home to pay for your education. I worked 2 jobs and supported you while you studied. I'm proud of you, but I'm also disappointed. If you were ashamed of where you came from, you could have talked to me. If Mark's family made you feel like you weren't good enough, I would have reminded you that you are. Instead, you chose to erase the person who stood by you when no one else would." I put down my glass and walked out. I just left. Driving home, I felt a weird mix of heartbreak and relief. Heartbreak because I'd lost my sister. Relief because, for once, I stood up for myself. Amy tried to call and left countless messages about needing to explain. I ignored. Nothing could justify this betrayal. For so long, I'd put my life on hold, always waiting for the right time, always putting her first. But that night, I realized it was finally time to choose myself. The next morning, I pulled out my old university acceptance letter. It was out of date, but the dream was still there. I started researching night classes, scholarships, anything that could help me finally chase my own goals. For the first time in years, I felt hope. Like my life could be more than just surviving. I don't regret helping Amy. She deserved every opportunity. But I deserve a future too. If you've ever felt invisible or rewritten by someone you love, just know, it's never too late to start over, and your story matters just as much as anyone else's. Have you ever had to sacrifice everything for family, only to be erased from their success story? Share your experience in the comments. You're not alone. Subscribe to Finally Me for more stories like this.